You're listening to Field Day with Katie Black.
Okay, what's up? Welcome to Field Day with Katie Black. I'm honored. I'm with Travis Reed in the house. What's up, Travis?
How you doing, Katie?
Good. How are you?
I am good. This is my first interaction with you, but hopefully not the last.
That's right. Good vibes. I already feel good vibes. So I always ask people, where were they born / where were they raised?
Well, I was born Martin Luther King Hospital in Los Angeles, California. I was raised in South Central. They call it South Los Angeles now, but I was raised in South Central LA. Back in the 80s, I'm an 80s baby.
That's right. What's up? Me too. And so what was, in a nutshell, I'm sure it's going to be hard to break it down in a nutshell. Like what was that experience like? I mean, obviously you guys don't see it, but you got a, Dodgers hat on. You still love it?
Oh, of course. I mean, I don't live in LA now. Nobody really lives in LA. We're all commuting to LA. But, you know what I'm saying? Like growing up in LA at that time, it was pretty tough. At the time it was like the murder capital of the world, but, luckily for me, I had a father and a mother who kept me into sports and kept me out of trouble.
I feel that. Now, before I go into your career, of course, wanted to know, since I just have studied since a young child, all sorts of things that have gone on in the country. Was wondering, were you in the area during the LA riots?
Yes. Yeah. I lived in LA during the riots. I used to see the smoke every day outside of my house.
How long, give or take, did that go on for?
2-3 weeks, almost a month.
Wow.
I just remember being out of school for a month or 6 weeks. And literally I was at the house every single day for 6 weeks, in the middle of the school year.
Mm-hmm.
And that was insane. You know what I'm saying?
Was it almost not to compare, but almost like a COVID thing where everyone stayed inside for a little bit, or what?
Well, no, I would say the COVID thing, everybody stayed in the house. During the riots, people were out trying to steal and loot and pillage.
Right. But I didn't know about you and your family,
Oh, I had a basketball court in my backyard. It was one of the old school ones where you had to put the cement and all that stuff and put a real old school hoop up.
Right.
So I just shot a lot with my dad in the backyard. But as far as us, we didn't really do too much. Some members of my family, they went out and funny story that I don't know, one of my cousins or my uncle went to Nike, when they went and looted or whatever. And he got 18 pairs of shoes.
Oh my God.
That was a funny story. And he was like, does Travis need any pair? I'm like, because he got all smaller shoes. I was like, oh man, my feet too big. You didn't get no bigger shoes.
That's
second funny story. There was a bed, a place that sold beds 2 blocks from my house.
Mm-hmm.
They looted that, and a 5'7" Hispanic dude had a California King mattress on his head, and he was running down the street. And the mattress was flopping because it was so big, and he was running down the street with a mattress on his head. That was funny.
Wow. I guess I didn't really understand that it lasted more than a week.
Oh yeah, it would last for a while. Like I said, it was insane. Like I said, we were just at the time, we were using a generator because the power and everything was all messed up. And we would watch TV or whatever. We would see, people going into shopping, grocery stores and coming out with a full everything of just groceries. I'm just picking up some stuff, while they were interviewing, the reporters would be interviewing people. It's oh yeah, I had to get some milk and some greens and some, some apples for the kids. And I was like, oh, okay. It was insane. I was 11. or something like that at the time. It was just an insane time.
Insane in the membrane.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, well, how obviously I understand that your parents basically what came first? Did you have a love of sports or your parents kind of pushed you in that direction and you ended up loving it or how did that happen as a youth?
I would say probably a little bit of mix of both.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, my father was a great player in his own right. He played basketball, football, baseball, but he was really good in basketball. And, I grew up, watching the Lakers, obviously, like everybody else in LA. And I love Magic Johnson. He's like still my favorite player of all time to this day. Um, and I would say, I love the game, but like my father kind of pushed me towards sports because he didn't believe of like, me sitting around the house. So he was like, you're gonna do something. You're gonna play
Right.
basketball, you're gonna play football, you're gonna play baseball, you're gonna do something.
And so was there a moment where you're like, wow, I'm really good at this?
Um, what I did realize when I was like in the fourth grade, I was like 8, and I
Mm-hmm.
was playing with like 11-year-olds
Mm-hmm.
because my father always played me 3 ages higher than my age.
Oh my goodness.
Always. Yeah. So like I always took my lumps.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I remember I was like 8 and my dad was like, I'm gonna start you with the 10, 11-year-olds or 30, 11, 12-year-old kids. And I actually had a good game, at 8 years old. And I was like, maybe I can do something with this. And my dad thought the same thing. He was like, he's 8 playing with 11-year-olds and he's holding his own. So he might have some talent.
You played at UCLA and Long Beach State.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so what were those two experiences at two different places like?
Well, obviously UCLA being uh, a major college, with major college with major, like
Vibes.
vibes, traditions, whatever you want to say. It was my dream school, like I've been watching UCLA since I was a kid. I watched Reggie Miller when he was at UCLA. I watched, Ed O'Bannon, Charles O'Bannon, because I knew a lot of the guys, Mitchell Butler, Toby Bailey, Chris Johnson, like I knew a lot of them growing up. I used to watch all of them growing up. So like one thing me and my father always used to do was like we would watch basketball games and watch all the talent of California history
Mm-hmm.
coming up. So a lot of those guys went to UCLA. Some went to SC, but a lot of them went to UCLA. So UCLA was my school. And we came in, I came in as the number one recruiting class in the country, with myself, Baron Davis, Earl Watson, Billy Knight, God rest his soul, Rico Hines, Ty Ramazar. And, my 2 years at UCLA were great, but I think that it just wasn't for me per se. I wanted to find kind of my own path. And that's why I went to Long Beach State. And Long Beach State was, like a mid-major school. But for me, the main thing about Long Beach State, what it did is help me get my grades back in order. I graduated from Long Beach State, which was a big accomplishment, one of the biggest accomplishments in my life, getting my college degree. And Long Beach State gave me a second chance to kind of figure out that I could still play this game because at UCLA, I didn't know. My confidence was kind of up and down, kind of weighing. And going to Long Beach State kind of got my confidence back in myself to know that I could still play this game for a long time. And so at Long Beach, I was like first team All Big West 2 years in a row, runner-up player of the year 2 years in a row. And that's after that, I went, obviously, went overseas. Yeah, pretty much, like after the draft hit, because I got drafted like number 59 or something like that. In the NBA, but I knew that the team really wasn't they just kind of used me as a pick.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I wasn't gonna make the team and I needed money for rent. So my boy had an agent. He was like, I can get you to Bogota, Colombia. Excuse me. Yeah. And that was my first job, Bogota, Colombia. And it was like, we'll pay you whatever it was, $4,000 a month. And I was over there for like 2 months just to kind of make sure I could pay rent, I could be good. And I signed a contract to go to Poland when I was in Bogota. So,
Wow.
mhm.
Well, what, like, so many different directions, right? I could go.
Okay.
Well, first
Well,
off, like, how did you feel about traveling overseas? Like, had you ever done that before, and did you love it? What was it like?
no, I had to get a map, because
Mm-hmm.
obviously back then, like, our phones wasn't what it was now.
Right.
So I had to get like a thesaurus map. I go just, oh, it's in South America over here. And I was like, I told my mom, like, Mom, I don't want to be a teacher or anything like that. I want to still play basketball. Cause she was like, I don't know. I don't know, baby. Like, I think you should, stay in the States. And the funny thing is, like, if Cocaine Cowboys would have came out back then, she would have let me go. She was like,
It's hilarious. Yeah.
because I was in Medellin and all them other places to play basketball. So, but yeah, it was a crazy situation just because I ain't never done it,
Mm-hmm.
and it was the first time I'm doing all this all by myself,
Right.
and I'm in another country where they don't speak English, and
Yeah. How did that go over? Just,
yeah, they didn't speak English. They just spoke Spanish. So I learned a little bit of Spanish. What I needed to know.
mm-hmm.
Like chicken, slow down.
Right. All the
Um,
mains.
yeah, all the main stuff. I love you, but I don't know why I know that I love you. But and the crazy thing is, like, in Bogota, I didn't have a car, but I had two armed guards with me at all times whenever I would go anywhere in the city.
Now, why
Because they kidnap people.
legit?
Yeah. So, like, there was no police. The army was the police.
Mm-hmm.
And so the army, basically, we stayed in like a 4-star hotel, the whole team. And basically we did, like, in a 4-star hotel, like, if I want to say, I used to just go to get like little cakes and then go to like the international call spot so I can call home. And like, it was like, oh, you leaving? I'm like, yeah. So, and they were just, all right, you and you go. So these guys had the AK-47s and the M16 rifles with me whenever I would walk outside of the hotel.
Wow.
Yeah, so I didn't go anywhere but like there and in the gym pretty much for the most part.
Well, before I dissect all the places you went and how long it lasted, was wondering, just from my standpoint, like I said, I know sports, but I don't really, like, I'm not an encyclopedia. Was curious at how the college game is different from the professional game.
States in general, college and NBA. College is a different thing because it's like teams play zone, teams double team guys, triple team guys, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
As in Europe, and let's say the NBA is about athleticism. If obviously now, especially, it's about athleticism and speed and shooting. So Steph Curry and Golden State Warriors can win a championship with a 6'8" guy at center in Kevon Looney, right? In Europe, the game is much more physical. It's much more slowed down. It's not like, the NBA has 25 guys averaging 25 points a game, right? Something like that. 10 guys averaging 26, 27, like in Europe, it's not like that. If you're averaging 25 in Europe, you're averaging like 40 in the States because the game is more slowed down. It's much more physical and they run a lot of plays. So I would say the difference between college in Europe is that Europe, the players are more skilled, obviously stronger because they're grown men, and they're just more physical, even though like they do a lot of flopping. That's why I learned how to flop from the European dudes. They would, kind of like people used to be on Vlade Divac when he would flop against Shaq. Like, that's how they play. That's how all European big men play. Like, if you banging, they're gonna fall and they're gonna pull you down to make sure the ref sees.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah. So my first year over in Europe, I like led the league in turnovers because I was charging a lot and doing dumb stuff. Just getting used to the game. But yeah, I would say that's the biggest difference. It was just like the European game is a lot of shooting. The big man can shoot. Like Jokic is obviously the MVP of the league, but most of the European big men play like Jokic over there. Not as good as Jokic, obviously. The Joker, you know what I'm saying? But that's how they play. They're not as athletic. They can shoot it. They can pass it. They can do a lot of things, and everybody can kind of do that in Europe.
Did you have any rituals that you did prior to a game?
Oh, yeah, had to. Some cool, some kind of gross.
Do you want to share one?
Yeah, sure. Like, I always had to use the bathroom before the game. Like that day, I had to at least use it like 3 times. If I didn't use it 3 times, I felt heavy.
Interesting.
That's probably the grossest thing.
I love that. No, I mean, I don't know. I love weird facts like that, I do.
I would always read my Bible, talk to my grandmother, talk to my dad. Cut my hair. I always cut my hair the night before the game, so I have a fresh shaven, fresh look. Because if you look good, you smell good, you play good,
Right.
I would eat. I would get up, go shoot. We would have practice, then go shoot, and then lift, and come back home, ice my legs, eat lunch, and then take like a 3-hour nap. And that was like, yeah. And then when I got up, I kind of like started listening to my music.
Getting pumped.
Get pumped, watch my Rocky scenes. I always watch Rocky 4 training montage.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, just like him working out and just going through all that. And then, like I said, listen to my music and then get ready for the game.
So when I've asked this before, do you what is in your mind? Like, is it just almost like someone brushing their teeth and not thinking about it? Like, is it just you're in the zone? Do you kind of I'm just wondering, like, your headspace of like what it's like to play the game, or do you go to a place, or are you literally in a mindset of you're actually not thinking, even though it's like reflexes?
Yeah, basketball is, I would say, like before the game, I would get just like mad. I would listen to music, I would be mad, right? But at the end, I would listen to a God song and then kind of take a prayer and just kind of, okay, now I'm relaxed, But like I would have to pump myself up to get going and then relax myself, But like for me, I used to love the games. If I can play, once I get into a rhythm, if I score a bucket here, then a bucket there, and then I get to a rhythm, like, okay, I'm in a rhythm of the game. The fans and stuff in Europe are way crazier than fans in the States.
Why do you think that is?
Oh, because they live and they die with I'm not saying they don't do that in the States, but they live and die with their teams. And like, we have fans that they would light tire flares in the gym while we're playing, and bam, and light it, like it's singing, whatever they're saying. And, they be singing, they be dancing. You be like, wow, okay. Like I'd be amped. I used to pump me up. Like, yeah,
right, I'm sure.
Yeah. In Europe, you have to be, only the really, really good teams win on the road. You really like to win, you got to basically win by like 10 points. Because if it comes close, the ref is going to cheat for the home team.
What?
Yeah, it's always kind of like that.
That sucks.
Yeah. Basketball was freedom.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah. It was freedom of mind, freedom of thought, freedom of the drama that you would have to go through. Say me and my ex or something is going through drama, with each other in a relationship or drama at home or whatever the case is. Basketball is that release from that, and it's like, okay, this is what I'm focusing on right now. I'm not saying that was 100% happen all the time, because sometimes what happens is your home life spills into your professional, into your court life. And that's when your mindset is messed up. But other than that, I'm saying, that basketball was my freedom. It was my, I love
That's awesome. I love to hear that. I might understand like Romania, Australia, Germany. Was there a favorite?
I don't want to offend any of my Dutch people. I would say Australia is probably the best because they spoke English or some form of English. You know what I'm saying?
I get it. Yeah.
And they were Americanized as far as like they had Burger King, they called it Hungry Jacks, but it was Burger King. They had McDonald's, they had Subway, they had McDonald's, Subway, 31 flavors. Like they had American food. Kentucky Fried Chicken, Domino's. The only thing about Australia is that they drive on the opposite side of the street. So I actually had to learn how to drive from the left side. I mean, the right side, not the left side.
Yeah, that's got to be trippy, huh?
Yeah, that was trippy because I almost got into an accident my first year, like every day.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like, oh, like.
You're having to like retrain your brain.
Yeah, no, it does. It does. And as far as partying, though, Estonia got to be the best. Estonia, they party in a blizzard, -10 outside. They vodka, Red Bull and vodka.
But especially I feel like it's heightened when you're in some sort of limelight, right? So I was curious whether it was in college or a combination of college and, professional basketball. How do you take... How are you, how do I say this? Like, taking stock of individuals around you, right? Like a negative crowd, essentially. Like, is that just trial and error, or how does that roll?
Being aware of my surroundings.
Right.
Well, I was, living where I lived in a war zone at the time. Like, that's what you taught to do. Mm-hmm. Like, I still do this to this day. Like when I go into a restaurant, any restaurant, I sit with my face towards the door. So I see everybody coming in and coming out. Oh. And I see where all the exits is, or I can make an exit. And for me, it's always this like second nature. So if I'm in the club, especially in another country, I'm always just looking, seeing who's this, who's that. For me, I'm a big, tall, nice guy. So like all the fans would just come up to me all the time. When you're in Europe, they're more aggressive, especially because they're intoxicated. So they come, try this, and put their arm around you and try to talk to you in your face. And you're just like, man, back up, man. Back up a little bit. But for me, I just would, like, hey, what's up, man? How you doing? Kind of look down to where they're not in my face, And like I said, for me, it's like I was good because I was a people person. So I would see stuff. Like stuff happened in the clubs, but nothing ever happened to me because I was always good.
Like friends, whether like, did you ever, I'm sure at some point question like, or is this person like legit? You know what I mean? Regardless, you know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Or is this person
just using me? Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. That's, reading in between essentially.
Oh yeah, look, when you're a professional athlete or whatever, you definitely deal with like leeches or people that are using you for the clout, Look, like when you're American overseas, it's not as much per se, but it's still there, Like NBA, obviously, that's what all people do. You have the weed guy, you have the girls guy, you have the, get you in any club guy, like you have a guy. And then people wonder why athletes have like big old entourages because everybody has their particular job, Like I said, in Europe, like it's not like that. You're pretty much by yourself, like you don't need it. You can't really have a posse of dudes. like that, you know? So like when you go into a club, you by yourself or maybe with your teammates and that's it, you know? So for me, it's like, if I'll go into the club by myself, I would have a good time and I would leave either with company or by myself, you know, company being a young female or my teammate for the most part. But you just got to be aware of somebody trying to use you for whatever you have. I never, it's probably a bad thing. I just never trusted anybody, especially like that over there. I left that world. That was my world at the time. But then when I would come back, this would be my world. So I never trusted anybody out there like that, you know, besides maybe my teammates. But even then, you know, like I trusted them, especially on the court, and I trusted them to take care of me and I would take care of them. But I didn't trust anything outside of that.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And maybe that like protected you in some way, you think?
Oh, yeah. Like, you know, my father always told me that some that usually is like looks too good to be true usually is. Mm-hmm. So like if somebody used to come up to me, I remember one time a dude came up to me and was like, Travis, I had just won the championship in Holland. And an agent was there at the game, was like, Travis, I can get you $15,000 a month in Spain Division II, right? And I'm like, oh, you can? You know, so what company you represent? Well, I'm an independent, guy. I know a lot of people in Spain, da, 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 da. And so I'm like, okay, that's cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, well, give me a number and I'll send you some, I'll send you my tape or whatever for, the game or whatever. So I exchanged his number. He's calling me, this is right before I leave to go back home. And I'm like, well, teams are interested, what teams like. He was like, well, there's a couple of this, he didn't even name a team because I can look up the teams, on Eurobasket. Come to find out that he was using like that agency's name. He was a former agent of an agency that it was well known. And he was using their name to try to trick athletes into giving him money to get them into bigger countries. Mm. And, she was trying to make me his next victim. And I wasn't, I was like, oh, okay, that's nice. All right. Well, thanks, I'll see you later. Yeah. Peace.
You don't know, play professionally over yonder.
I played 10 years overseas professionally.
And so what was that like when that chapter closed?
Honestly, it was extremely hard. It was extremely hard. Like I was 32, 33 at the time. I had a 3-year-old son. And I didn't know what to do with my life. Mm-hmm. Imagine, I played basketball since I was 5 years old, right? And I retired when I'm 33. That's 28 years of your life. And imagine doing something for 28 years. And then now you got to figure out, what do you want? Like, what else are you going to do? It's like being a lawyer for 28 years of your life. And now all of a sudden, now go be a doctor, an MD. Mm-hmm. And you're just like, what? And so for me, I had responsibility to, help provide for my son. And I was lost for years trying to figure out what I was going to do. Now I had the support of my family and all that, but like without God getting me through, I don't know what I would have done. I got really low after I retired, really, really low. Like thought about suicide, thought about a lot of stuff, but, I had a little bit of alcoholism, drank a lot, a lot of stuff. So for me, it was a tough transition out of sports. Mm-hmm.
Well, first of all, thank you for sharing. And sorry that, you went through that and you decided to stay with us.
Oh, like it's a blessing. We're all here for a reason. I realized that. And, for me, that's why I do the show that I do, because a lot of people, they don't, realize how when athletes are up here at the top level or whatever, everybody loves you, everybody talks to you, everybody wants to talk to you, know you, blah, 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 blah. But when it's over, it's over. Just like that, you know? And then people don't want to talk to you. People don't, you're like, all right, well, we're on to the next thing. And people wonder why athletes are in substance abuse or they smoke weed or they drink or, you know, they're depressed in a great state of depression because they don't know what to do in their life. They don't.
Right.
You know,
well, I've just been a creature of always studying interviews of, you know, athletes, of movie stars, what have you. And, you know, you're my 5th interview into this new show that focuses on ex-athletes, but it seems to be a running theme of no one preparing these individuals, no matter which sport it is. I mean, they know that it's going to happen, right? But there's no backing. There's no like support system of like, hey, these are things maybe you need to set in motion. And was wondering if something like that was available. Do you think that would help? Because I've also had another individual tell me, well, no one could prepare you for it anyways, even if they tried.
well, I would tell you this. Athletes think they're immortal, right? I played 10 years overseas, right? Which is longer than a lot of people, right? But I thought I was going to play 20, you know? I thought I was going to play till I was 40, you know, have a couple of years of towel waving and being that American towel waving. But, you know, it wasn't in God's plan for me. So I feel like they can do something like that to kind of prepare you because you never know when it's going to end. Like I have friends within my 10 years, like quit and stop playing basketball and like get hurt, stop playing. I mean, one of the things about me, I got hurt. I have 2 stress fractures in my shins. Well, I had them. And I still have 2 plates in my shins as we speak, you know, over my shins. So for me, I would say like what they should do, like, you know, basketball, like, in general, you should have like teach you how to have a retirement plan. Teach you how to have something where like, you know, if you're getting say 5,000 a month, they put 700 a month in a retirement account, similar to a 401k or something like that.
Right.
Because in Europe, especially, we don't have 401ks in Europe. Whatever you get, you get. And if you spend it all, that's it.
That's
you
it.
know?
You're screwed.
Yeah, that's it. So there's nothing, you know, like you might save money. I saved money or whatever, but it's like I had to use it, obviously, when I got back and retired from basketball.
I appreciate you sharing and everything. Now,
anytime.
yes, I would love to have you back as well. But was curious. Well, before I get into podcasting life,
Okay.
Do you believe the game has changed?
Basketball?
Yes.
Oh, hell yeah. Excuse my language.
No, I mean, please. I curse all the time. Oh, but I mean, how so?
Look, I mean, I hate to be the old get off my fence guy or get off my lawn guy, but it's a fact. The game is less physical. You know what I'm saying? Like, could you imagine the Detroit Pistons, the bad boy Pistons in today's era? They would be missing 7 players every game because half of them would be suspended every game, right?
Fair.
Because they were so physical. Now, I don't like that brand of basketball because that's just bully ball. But, yeah, the game is, you know, like I don't like teams shooting, 75 threes or 73s. Like, you know, people say like Golden State started it. I'm like, do you realize Golden State's offense is like a motion offense? So they get a lot of layups. They shoot threes, but Curry gets a ton of layups. Clay gets a ton of layups. Drake, you know, like they get a lot of layups. They don't just shoot threes willy-nilly. Do I believe in analytics? In some facets, yes. And in some facets, no. You know? Do I believe that everything should be a 3 or a layup? No. But I think now the game is where the players, it's more skill. It's not just bully ball, you know, like they say for a perfect example. The New York Knicks had Patrick Ewing Anthony Mason and Charles Oakley as a front court, right? Now, Mason and Oakley could shoot a little bit, and Patrick could shoot a little bit, but they were more for the physical side of basketball. Nowadays, teams can, like I said, like Golden State, the champion, can have Kayvon Looney at center. He's like 6'8". Draymond Green, who was like 6'6" at the 4, you know, and then they have obviously Steph and Clay, and I forgot who else started for them at the 3. They can have this little old team and still destroy you because they spread you out. And so, like, back then, that would have never happened. Like, if Shaq was playing now, he would destroy, but the problem is, you know, teams who shoot a lot of threes would bring him out, you know, out of the key. And what Steph Curry's done is done great for the game, but he's eliminated the center, period. What Golden State has done is just eliminated the big man.
So basically, you're almost like, in essence, you're saying like the sauce is gone.
The physicality sauce, yes. Don't get me wrong, the game is still physical. Draymond is a great physical player. Milwaukee's a physical team. Giannis is physical. Miami's physical. Boston's physical. The basketball game for men is like it's a lot of physicality, you know, and they're all players who are physical, but it's definitely a lot more skill as far as like what guys have to do. There was no Kevin Durant back in the 80s or the 90s, you know. He's the closest thing to Kevin Durant, honestly, was Larry Bird, you know, or Magic Johnson. And obviously, those are unique players. Larry Bird was 6'10", could shoot it, handle it, could pass it. I think what Kevin Durant and Dirk Nowitzki and those kind of guys has made the 4-man kind of streamlined to like a 3-man playing the 4. That's what it is. You know, like small ball, it's small forwards playing power forwards playing centers. Right. You know, I remember I got cut when I was in Europe. I got cut from Poland literally for nothing else that I wasn't 6'10".
What?
You know? They said
and tell listeners how tall you are.
I'm 6'8" with shoes on, 6'7" with shoes off. So they were like, yeah, he's not 6'10" like you told us he was, my agent at the time. Like, well, is his game good? Can he play? Yeah, he can play, but he's not 6'10". We want 6'10".
That's weird.
And that's what happens, you know, like back then. But now I feel like I was born, you know, 10 years too early because now I would have played in the NBA, I feel like.
No. Travis and myself are under the Believe Family Network, and I understand that you have 2 shows. Is that correct?
Yes, I do. I have the Believe in UCLA show with my co-host Sam Connor. And, you know, he went to UCLA a lot later than I did. I played at UCLA basketball. So we talk about football, basketball, you know, drafts, just everything about UCLA sports pretty much. And then my show that I have by myself is An Athlete's Journey. And what that is a show that is about like people like myself and former athletes and current and future, just talking about their journeys, how they grew up, how they got to their certain highs and peaks of basketball, you know, or any sport that I talk to, football, gymnastics, whatever the case is, and baseball. And what happens after, for me, it's always what happens after. I mean, I can share this with you because I've shared it on my podcast before. My best friend who went to UCLA with me, Billy Knight, you know, he committed suicide after he retired from basketball like a couple of years because he didn't make the transition. He didn't know what he was doing next, you know. He didn't have a good grasp on it. And so, like, it was a situation where he felt like he just couldn't figure out what was next and he just couldn't deal with it. And I was at that point, you know, in my life. So for me, telling these stories and listening to these different people about their stories is the main thing. So the next generation of athletes, the next Travis Reeds or, whatever, can like feel like, okay, I'm not alone when I feel like this. I'm not alone if I feel depressed or I feel depressed or sad because my career didn't turn out the way I wanted to, or, just dealing with the stress of the game or whatever the case is. That's what my second show is about.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm sorry for the loss of your friend.
It's like I'm pretty sure he's happy that I'm doing this. So no, if I can save one person, then I've done my job. I'm good.
That's what's up. Well, I mean, obviously not the same, I don't know, the same vibe as far as like what I am trying to highlight with this show is, obviously, yes, I'm very interested in your career and your journey, but I'm also just as interested as post-career.
Yeah, no, it's very similar. It's, our shows are very similar when it comes to that, because, for me, it's like what happens after. That's my main thing, is what happens after, because like I said, we deal with a lot of stress. I mean, and I'm not just talking about like me because I played overseas. I'm talking about like NBA guys. I had, somebody tell me that like, and he was in NBA for a long time, that he immediately had to get therapy after he retired because he just was depressed and didn't know what he was going to do with his life. And he needed somebody to talk to. Now, eventually he got everything back on track. But in the beginning, it was just such a struggle.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure. Well, like I said, props to you too for lending a voice and like, being open that this goes on.
No, it's definitely a situation where like nowadays, especially nowadays, because of social media and everything like that, like, everything is just like in your face. Everything is in your face. And you're just like, if people back in the 80s or 90s was in today, they wouldn't know how to deal with social media, as crazy as it is. You can be out for having a drink. So Travis, you alcohol? You alcoholic? No? Yes? And you're just standing there like, man, So for me, I enjoy hearing stories and hear former athletes tell me how they grew up, how they got to their successful point of their athletic. And like I said, you don't have to be professional. It could be your peak was in college. Your peak was in high school.
Right.
Because we all have to make the transition of life anyway. If you made it to high school, the transition to whatever you're doing next. If we made it to college and was good, and then what's the transition next? Because everybody ain't blessed to play professional or even want to. So
I feel that. Well, kind of, same topic of podcasting, but was curious, since we're in this podcasting world, do you get a lot of, I want to start a podcast. I want to start a podcast. And was wondering, obviously I do and have for years, just wondering, what's your vibe of that? What's your thoughts?
Oh, well, look, I'll say this. If you can find what you do and is passionate to, you do it.
That's fair.
The thing about podcasting is that anybody can do it from anywhere about anything, And if you feel like, you have something to say that you want to get off your chest, so you feel like people will listen, who am I to tell you not to? Yeah. Only God judges. So I would never tell anybody, like, even if somebody wanted to say like, look, I want to talk about radishes. Okay. I'll be like, okay, well, that might not be for me, because I don't want to know about radishes, but maybe somebody does want to know about radishes in Willacoochee, Georgia, or I don't know, New Mexico, like, oh, so you make your radishes like that? So for me, like, if you want to do it and you feel like you have a voice, go ahead.
Do it. That's good advice. Well, I guess I and I've always kind of believed that everyone has a story and all that, and everyone has something to offer. But I guess I asked that just because here recently, I feel like I hear people say it so much, but I'm like, but do you really? Do you really want to? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's my vibe. But
I think when people see things that you like, they see you, right, Katie? And they see you have a podcast, you be doing your thing, and like you get signed to Believe and all that. And then they be like, well, I want to do a podcast because I just saw Katie do this, you know? Now, like you said, like, do you really want to do it? Because the podcast thing is a grind. And if you ever want to get to a successful level, you got to have a grind about yourself to consistently put out content. It can't be like 1 week, I want to do a show, and then like a month, goes by and I don't want to do a show. It ain't podcasting, ain't that. It's just a consistent treadmill grind that you're on until you get off the treadmill and maybe you get a deal, or, maybe you get to a network. Maybe you did, sign to a company,
I feel that love unsolved mysteries from back in the day with Robert Stack. And my favorite segment is the unexplained.
Okay.
So Travis was curious if you've ever seen a ghost, or it doesn't have to be a ghost, something unexplained that you never forgot.
That's a good question. Look, yes, but it's explained. Like, I remember waking up, like I said, during the riots, because we talked about it. And every day I woke up, the sky was black, but it was filled with smoke. Mm-hmm. So basically, you would think it was nighttime when it was 12 in the afternoon, mm-hmm. And so, like, I just remember, like, that was crazy. Like, damn, it's like darkness. Like, I can't even see the sun because there's so much fire and smoke. But that was explained. And I guess the one thing I don't explain, I don't understand is Alaska. I don't understand they have 6 months of dark and 6 months of light. I went out there when they had the 6 months of light once. So it was 2 a.m. and the sun was out. And I'm like, how do y'all live like that? How do you sleep with the sun out at 2 a.m, So that will probably be the weirdest, that's unexplainable to me.
I dig it.
Yeah.
I dig it. Well, especially even going back to the LA riots, for that to have gone on, you said, for a month. I mean, how trippy.
No, that was, like I said, like every time I would go out to the front yard, you would just see, in the backyard too, you would just see, because everything was burning.
Right. Like literally.
Everything was burning around you, literally burning around you. So, I mean, like for me, like they never burned anything on our street, but they burned like the street over from our street, which was the liquor store, the one we walked to, that was burned down. The whole complex, the little strip mall across the street from that was burned down. Like, all that was, like, he was like, man, that was just a crazy situation, especially being a kid in it.
Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, Travis, do you want to give a shout out to any of your social media or anything where people can find you?
Sure. Like, people can find me on Instagram at Travis W. Reed. That's REED, first name Travis, middle name W. On Instagram, I post all my social media platforms or whatever I'm doing on that. You can follow me on Facebook as well, at Travis W. Reed, same thing. And if you, like I said, if you want to listen to my show on the podcast form on this network, it is Believe in UCLA, and the other one is called An Athlete's Journey. You just go to Believe Network, type in Travis Reed. Believe, An Athlete's Journey, you'll find it, or you can find it on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, all that stuff. And if you want to see this face that you're listening to, we also got the shows on YouTube as well. An Athlete's Journey. Just go support, subscribe, like the channel, and like I said, all the shows on there too.
What's up? Well, Travis, what do you think? That's it.
Is it? I was ready for more. You was giving me light question. I'm good.
Oh, well, second round. We'll have to do this again.
Oh, I'm with it anytime.
All righty. Well, like I said, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate it. I always tell people you didn't really know me, so that makes it that much nicer. You know what I mean? Appreciate it. Appreciate you sharing. And like I said, props to you for the work you're doing.
Well, like I said, I appreciate you for letting me come on the show, Katie. And like I said, it's going to be first of many.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's going to be successful. You're going to be super success coming to the network.
Thank you.